Okay, back again with part 2 of Wild Bee and company attacking this undead infested Hamlet. So Grybow is infested, and they just discovered it on day 2, effectively day 3, but anyway, of the campaign. Now, what I've got on the side screen is I've got on the side screen the Word document where I'm typing in results and such. So I'm just modifying the card as we go. So alright, so what have we got here? 20 remains not recovered on the first one. So the first one was a difficulty of 27. So the difference between is a victory by 7. So that means that we deduct 7. So we've got 20 remaining. Then I'll just move that over to here so that you can see. Then there's the second one. There's no remains left over from that attack. Okay, so that's 0. And then we've got 34 versus 17. And the difference is 17, so that's all 17 recovered. So that's another result of 0 here. And then we've got the next one being okay, so that's 19, so versus 19. So that's a victory by 5. Oops. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, victory by 5. Skeletons destroyed, 19. Skeletal remains retrieved, 19. And none remaining. No. Yes. No. 2. Alright, so difference is 5. No. Difference is 15, sorry. Yeah, so difference is 15. Victory by 15. Destroyed. Well, yes, all of them are destroyed. 19 destroyed. Then 15 recovered. Okay. So 4 remaining. Alright, so I'm basically creating this assault layer so that we can stack them. Alright, so, oops, sorry. So we can stack the results on top of each other. So these are all the ones that are remaining, the ones that haven't been taken out. So I can stack them neater than this. For example, I can cut that and then paste it. Now what I'm wanting is to have the most important thing is to preserve the serial number and the numbers remaining. Alright. Oh, sorry. As for this one saying Chakra-Pop Hamlet, that was only just one cell out of the entire pile that still had for some reason Chakra-Pop listed. Anyway, so another question is, so how many undead can you actually face in a day? You know, it's really a big question because firstly, these guys are green. They're well and truly green. They've not faced this many skeletons in combat. Generally, in the 1,000 years since the War of the Gods, facing any kind of threat from undead really is running faster than the slowest person, for example. So yeah, they haven't really done much in the way of stand-up fighting against them. So let's just say that from the tour, before I do that, so the tour of rowing from there up here, let's just say that took 2 hours, and say, for example, at the start of when they began to assault, let's just say that it was, I don't know, 9 o'clock in the morning. Now, how long it takes to process this many undead is the question. So I don't have an answer for it really. For green troops and things like this, I haven't really differentiated between them. So it's hard to tell. Now, I don't want to. I don't want to make it so that we just blow them off. There's a lot of threat. I mean, this is just a Hamlet, and not recovering the skeletal remains means that there's still going to be plenty left over. So if you imagine, for example, trying to fight this many safely, we might be looking at an hour each encounter. But then again, how long really does it take to take on 27 skeletons? It doesn't really take that long. So it may be that I just work it out in terms of calling it 1 per minute or something like that. It could be that I call it 1/4 of an hour per encounter. That's in terms of the actual fighting, and then the retrieving of the skeletal remains and the bagging and the whole process. So maybe that's the best way to do it. So if that's the case, then calling it an hour each one, it's a tough one. So anyway, look, I'm just going to process. So what we up to? We're up to 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, I'm going to process another one after this one. All right, so again, we've got some calculations. Now, hopefully my brain won't freeze when it comes to mathematics, at least this time. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to go to assault layer, I'm going to paste, Alright, now something happened there. The size of it has changed. So I'm going to go back in here. I'm going to copy from the source. And that's better. Alright, sorry. Okay, so going to do my working out on in the Word doc. Okay, so there's right, 12, then we've got 16. I hate my brain sometimes. Yeah, it's just a simple calculations, but you know, I mean, really, I'm a little bit embarrassed to say that I'm not doing too well with it. So anyway, we're gonna just make sure, just move along, nothing to see. All right, so that's that. So this one here is completely destroyed. So there's nothing remaining there. So I'm going to take that one, and this one is going to be put, I don't know, on the boat, for example. Yeah, we'll put them down here. So going back to the excuse me. Alright, going down here, and I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to go to here, and then I'm going to paste that. Then I'm going to go to here. I'm going to paste that. So, alright, total victory. Okay, so total victory. Alright, so total victory over an entire card is going to result in a loot drop. So we're going to go back to the loot drop, and we're going to, before we get to the next encounter, we better process the loot. So Alright, now down in the little corner here, we've got this little calculator. Now, I mentioned this in the previous live stream. So this little calculator, I'm going to F9 and you can see how it changes. So let's say Y8 and let's do it again, D23. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to go to make sure that I've got the right one selected. And I'm going to select black over loot. I'm going to now go down to D23. So 23D is this one. Oops, sorry. Alright, so I'll go back a step. So back to here so I can see the entire thing. I'm now going to select, make sure I'm on the right one. So loot, black over loot. Then I'm going to go to D23. And I'm going to select that and delete. And then I'm going to zoom in. And I'm going to try not to do that all the time. Alright, so by completing that one group, they've effectively found this loot. So that's 39,000 worth of loot. So I'm cutting that. Now I'm going to paste that here. Now again, what's the most important thing about it is the serial number and the serial number and the amount. So I'm going to stack that, and I'm going to go back to here, total victory. Right, now okay, so first things first, I'm going to take this one and I'm not going to use it. Okay, I'm going to take this, oops, take this, I'm going to take that out, okay, and I'm going to go back to here and I'm going to black over somehow, somewhen. Alright, while I'm at it, I'm just going to go back to the story, and I'm going to say total victory, wild, bee, and company return to the town of Devlin. Victorious. Alright, so I'm going to stop that there, save it off, close it off. I'm going to exit out of that, save it off. I'm going to switch back to here, verify that I've got this one. I know that it'll be there tomorrow. Okay, so these guys here, longboat, take the longboat, cut the longboat, paste the longboat, put the longboat here. Assault, I'm going to take the assault cards, I'm going to cut them, paste them. No, going to cut them again. I'm going to put them on the longboat. So put them with the longboat. Longboat layer, cut that. Then I'm going to zoom out. And I'm going to go and select the town of Devlin. And I'm going to go to the dock. Oops. Okay, longboat layer, paste. Oops, right in there. Alright, so okay, so now that is the longboat layer. Okay, so we're cutting from the longboat layer here. Then we're going back to the town of Devlin. So we're going to switch off those. I'm going to switch on Devlin. Ah, right. Longboat layer needs to be on top of okay. Alright, so I'm now taking the longboat, putting the longboat into the port. I'm going to swing it around. I'm going to basically put it here against the, well, actually preferential parking. I'm going to stick it just here. Alright, so I think it should be possible to extract from there, but this is not a bad location. Preferential parking. Now, having thought about it, look, I really need to extend the dock and everything like that, because really coming in through here, you should be able to dock all the way around the outside, and it should be possible to get a boat through. So this central area here doesn't need to be as big as this, but anyway, we'll worry about that later. So the second thing is that I have put I've put the wealth and I've put the skeletal remains in the keep. So just something else to remind, to recall, to consider all those things. Yeah, so the longboat layer, I'm going to call this, I'm going to rename it Wild Bees Longboat. So Wild Bees Longboat can move around as I see fit. Now there's something else that I need to consider, which is the geopolitical groups. Now going to the geopolitical groups layer, which is this one here, and zooming in on it, there's Wild Bees group, and I'm going to cut from the geopolitical groups. and I'm going to put it with the longboat layer. So in terms of accountability and where they are and where people are and such, it's really important to have them in the right place. So I'm going to, but then again, I really should paste them here in the keep. Alright, so the other thing is I'm going to stick it over the top of the longboat layer, or I can put the longboat layer on top, whatever. So there's lots of different ways I can work around it. So the next thing is, I'm not sure where I'm going to go from here with regards to the processing of moves and the time it takes for me to do this in my head and write it all down and things like this. So what I'm considering is that, yes, it's important to show things like the assaults and things like this on towns as part of the live stream, but it's going to be boring for everybody. So there's not much I can do about that. I mean, so far we're on 26 minutes of this part 2. Now, yes, I did create a longboat, so I did some other things as well. So it wasn't just one thing. So so it wasn't as straightforward. It was a little bit slow and everything like that. So, I mean, really, let's just estimate half an hour to process 1 day of moves. That's quite a bit of time for 1 day. And the other thing is that there's 4 geopolitical parties currently in action in Stockark. So Stockark already has that many people moving around, and I haven't processed them today. And then you multiply it by the fact that I still need to catch up on the other 3 baronies. It all adds up. To do this as a live game, the thing is that it's going to be that people can process these things, while other people continue with their moves. So it's not like there's just one person like myself. It would pretty much be that I would record the results. People would process through the cards. They'd process through the combats and things like this. So while somebody's engaging the undead in Hamlet, somebody else could be moving their characters and processing a different move somewhere else. So so in terms of the speed of the game in the live environment, it's heaps faster. All the things that I've done so far are really it's only because there's just me trying to process the moves of all the geopolitical groups. So I'll persevere. I can't think of a way that I can streamline it any further than what I'm doing. It could be that I outsource some of this in terms of people can process their own moves, and then I just anyway, I'll have to have a think about that, because effectively what that means is that it would take if it's half an hour to process one geopolitical group, and there's 4 of them in each province, then we are looking at 8 hours of live stream. That's not sustainable. It needs to be done a lot faster than that. It could be that anyway, I'll have to have a think about options. The actual processing of the undead in a town and things like this. I mean, a lot of it can be automated. I don't want to go that way. I'd rather process through the cards and do it in that way. So anyway, we'll work it out. Thanks for joining us again, and if you've got any questions, please feel free to send me a message, give me a call, and for general information, look at